All right, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday night stream. We have some of the regulars in the audience tonight. David Grishko is here. We've got Jacob Johnson, and TVJ is listening while he's on his drive home. And we've got Bella, a new person. So welcome, one and all. Tonight we're going to talk about some retro things. I've got a couple specimen next to me. They were the only two retro machines I could find before the stream tonight. I thought I had at least one more here, but they might still all be in storage. So just going to check my phone and make sure everything is looking right on the stream. So far so good. There we go. Now it's caught up. All right. So I'm going to share my screen and flip over to the other workspace on my Linux box, and we'll chronicle a little bit of my early history in computers. And I've got a couple of machines sitting next to me that I will bring out as props. And we'll talk about those machines a little bit. And yeah, go from there. So let me go ahead and share this. And again, pardon the inception as I switch over to the other screen. I'm using one monitor at the moment, so I don't have much of a choice. But hey, hopefully by Saturday I'll have my office put back together and all the equipment hooked back up, and we'll be in a little bit better shape. So let's go to that view and we'll switch over here. So I want to go all the way back to the beginning. This the TRS-80 Model 3 was the first machine that I put my hands on, and this was probably winter of 1984, so probably about 40 years ago right now. Maybe it was fall of 83. That bit is a little bit fuzzy. But it was a black and white all-in-one machine. Put out by Radio Shack, and it had a Z80 processor running at 2 whole megahertz, if you can believe that, and 48 kilobytes of RAM. Those were the days that you had to write software that was as efficient as possible, and it wasn't flashy software, but we did have Oregon Trail that ran on this old beauty. So that was the first computer I put my hands on. The first computer we had at home, that computer that my dad purchased at Toys R Us of all places, which is now as defunct as Coleco is. But since we already had ColecoVision as a game console in the house, my father, in his wisdom at the time, bought the Coleco Atom computer, which I think the thing ran for 18 months before it went, I'll use the American phrase, belly up. The British slang phrase that I'm also aware of might get me demonetized this soon into the live stream, but anyway. So it was kind of an interesting computer in the way that it was built. They had a daisy wheel printer that shipped with the computer. So you had an actual letter quality printer. It was noisy as hell, but it was letter quality. And, you know, my father, being a business owner, wanted to also dabble in using it for the business. So that was, the daisy wheel printer was a selling point for him, along with being able to entertain the kids and having it play games. I find it interesting that the selling price was $725, which would be over $2,000 US dollars in today's currency, or whenever today was when they last updated the Wikipedia page. So the next computer, and I'm going to do these a little bit out of order. The next computer, we're going to jump here. So the Color Computer 2, also a machine by Radio Shack and Tandy Corporation. This was the computer that I started doing programming on when I was in the 6th grade. And they had a couple of, at the school I was at, they had a couple different models of this particular machine. I believe they were all the 64K model, but part of them had the, they call it the shrunken keyboard. And it was an interesting typing experience, sort of akin to a mid-range laptop keyboard these days, I guess you could say. So that we used that at school, and I apparently made a compelling case to my father to buy one of those for home use, and we did. And so that was the second family computer that we had. The Color Computer 3 was the first machine I bought with my own money, which was just an evolution of the two. And then we scroll back up here. The Color Computer 1, I was actually gifted a Coco 1 years later by a friend of mine who is now passed. But I can't quite bring myself to part with it. So I may have a problem. Too many computers in my possession right now. But let's jump over to the chat and put myself back on screen, and then we will look at a couple of these machines that I've got here and see what we've got going on. So, good evening, Luke. Welcome. And my Sea Prince made it in the wee hours of the morning on the other side of the pond. As we Yanks are prone to calling it, I guess you could say. Okay, so this huge thing, this is the Tandy Color Computer 1, and the thing I find interesting about this one, it apparently has been opened. The warranty sticker had a screw underneath it, and instead of using a hair dryer to peel it up, they just push the screwdriver right through it. So I've never actually had this one hooked up. I don't currently have a good way of hooking it up, but there are some remedies out there to that issue. But the thing I find interesting about this is that the serial number is under 40,000. And I'm not entirely sure how many of these were built, but that is a fairly low serial number. 37,443. So nice specimen from 1980, and it's got some tape residue on it. Not sure why they had tape on it, but I'll have to get some Goo Gone out and try to clean that up a bit. Maybe one of these days I'll be able to come up with a relatively reasonable way of hooking it up to see it in action. And the other machine I've got, still in the original box. All the contents are not in the original box. But on the back side of the box, it says custom manufactured in USA for Radio Shack, a division of Tandy Corporation. And seems like there was an extra piece I had in the box. So if I can get the box open. All right. There it goes. So the extra piece I had in the box is actually the floppy disk controller, which is shaped like a game cartridge because it plugs into the same port as the game cartridge. Little bit worse for wear. The actual original disk drive set I had was went through a flood, and so I no longer have that in my possession. Unfortunate, but sometimes those things happen. So, but the computer itself, complete with the original styrofoam, don't have the original plastic. This is the first computer I purchased. It is missing its feet. I had actually put felt over the spots where the feet were supposed to be. This originally came with 128 kilobytes of RAM. My now deceased uncle and I upgraded it to 512 meg, which there were a handful of games that took advantage of that. And then there was a multi-user, multitasking operating system called OS 9. And no, not to be confused with Mac OS 9. This is OS 9 from a company called MicroWare that could run on this thing. Just going to set that on the floor for right now. And it was interesting because it was a Unix-like operating system, I guess you could call it. But it was used more in embedded systems, which, I mean, the 6809 processor in these things could, by today's standards, be considered almost an embedded processor in terms of capabilities. But yeah, it was good times with these old machines growing up, for sure. Good evening, Brian Kaplan. Welcome. I don't see why you could have too many computers, particularly as it's your subject. There's museums here with more modern ones. Yep, I have watched some videos on some of the museums that you have over there, and I'm a little jealous. I would love to take a trip one day and see some of that stuff in person. So let's see. Oh no, flood. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad. It was during grad school. I was living at my dad's place, and the power went out, which took out the sump pump, which let the basement flood. And the biggest issue is that it didn't flood just one night. It happened 2 nights in a row. And the issue was that the reason some of my stuff got ruined is because we had help cleaning the basement up, and some of the helpers, in their infinite wisdom, decided to stack heavy plastic Rubbermaid totes on top of partially empty Rubbermaid totes. And so when it flooded the second night, there was a buoyancy factor and everything flipped over. To quote the 1995 movie Hackers, paraphrase, I suppose. The pile of totes flipped over. But anyway, I've mostly recovered from that. Thankfully I didn't throw out all the old video game equipment and games. I was pretty devastated about the games, and I stored them. I just put them away for a number of years. But a friend of mine has got me back into the retro gaming scene a bit. And it turns out that a lot of those old cartridges are pretty resilient. If you let them dry properly, they'll still work. So I apologize for the sound effects in the background. I believe that's the water heater refilling itself, and things going on in the basement. The bad part about this particular area where I'm streaming from is that I've got a furnace vent right in front of me on the wall, and yeah, it can be rather noisy with sounds from the basement. You got it, Brian. Print hello world. Pond. I can definitely verify it's bigger than a garden pond. Sailed across it 4 times. Yeah, it's just slang that we use over here. Kind of like some. I was working on some family genealogy, and I came across a relative from back in the day and somewhere in England. I couldn't tell you where off the top of my head. But his occupation was listed as fishmonger. And there, in the course of doing the research on this, I came across 2 definitions for fishmonger. One is a vendor of fish, and the other is a pimp. So who knows? Hey, Joe, with my grandmother at the moment, done shortly, but leaving stream on. Very good. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. So I'm going to flip back over to my other screen, and I'll briefly talk about a couple of other computers. Excuse me. So I went from the Color Computer 3, and like many color computer owners, I jumped over to the Commodore Amiga platform, and I ended up with an Amiga 500, similar to the one shown here, complete with the tank mouse, as they called them back in the day. But I was rather late into hold that thought just a moment. I was rather late to the party that was the Amiga. And I got my 500 in 1993. I believe it was summer of 93. And Commodore went belly up in May of 1994. But being the naive youngster that I was, I went out and got myself a secondhand Amiga 1200. And I ran that for a number of years. Wasn't an awful machine. I ended up taking mine out of the wedge case with the keyboard built in, and I put the motherboard in a tower with expansion slots and the whole 9 yards. And then I think, as I mentioned in previous streams, a buddy of mine also bought an Amiga. He bought an Amiga 4000 Tower, one of these monsters, not the Commodore branded one. His was purchased after Commodore went belly up, and his is the Amiga Technologies version. And a few years later, he sold it to me at quite the discount. And suspecting at the time that, I felt there was something special about the machines, but they weren't as mass produced as your typical PC. I held on to the Amiga stuff, and there is quite the community around it. Even building new and exciting peripherals for these now retro machines, using Raspberry Pis as an accelerator to make the thing go faster. So I would love one day to get my hands on a video toaster to put into my 4000 Tower. I think that would be great fun to play with it, but those things don't come up for sale that often, and when they do, they still command a pretty penny. So yeah, that's so I think I got my 4000 Tower from my buddy in 1999, maybe it was 2000. So we're talking 24, 25 years ago, give or take. And I've got the matching 19-inch monitor that goes with it. So, which is it's a multi-sync monitor. I forget who actually produced it. It was rebadged for Amiga Technologies. It was probably Philips or Magnavox, whichever brand it was under. They're all part of the same corporate entity. But very, very nice monitor. Very low hours on it. That is in storage in the original box. I'm sure that would it would kill me to part with it, but it would probably command a nice price on the used market at this point. There's something about having those multi-sync tube monitors that just is still popular in the retro world. All right, so let's take that off and we'll see about catching up here. It looks like what DNS servers do you use on your firewall? I've been using the Cloudflare DNS servers. Sometimes I use them through Pi-hole. Sometimes I don't. Depends on how much monkeying around I'm doing on my network at any given time. Yeah. Generally I'm using Cloudflare. Sometimes I'll use the Google DNS servers, but that's generally what I've been using. And all in all, everything tends to work pretty well. The first thing I do whenever I get a new internet connection is change the servers provided by the ISP. I just have not had good luck with ISP DNS. So, I guess one other thing I could talk about, not really hardware related necessarily, but I had to take a trip after work tonight to return the ceiling fan controller that Amazon had sent me when I ordered the 10 gig adapter for my Synology NAS. And I returned it. Amazon has in this area a partnership with Staples to do returns. So all I had to do was walk in and let them scan a QR code on my phone, and they handed me a receipt, and it had a 15% off coupon on it. So since I'm getting my sit-stand desk put together, and it's quite a wide desk. I think it's almost 6 feet wide, which will be nice. I'll have a little bit more room. But Staples gave me a 15% off coupon for anything that I purchased in the store today. So I happened to find this Razer Gigantus mouse mat, and this will be something it's big enough it'll go under my keyboard and the mouse. And I thought, just to protect the top of the new desk, I will pick that up. Probably still could have got it cheaper on Amazon, but sometimes there's that instant gratification factor involved, and I let it get the best of me tonight, especially since I don't shop at brick and mortar stores all that much anymore. It was kind of a treat, I guess. So, yeah, another night that I don't have enough content to fill 2 hours. We barely 32 minutes in. But yeah. Let's see. You say about price, they are a retirement fund. You could set up a museum. So I probably have the start of a museum. I still have, I think, in storage, I don't think it's ever been thrown out, that ColecoVision Atom computer. And now that I know a few more things about troubleshooting than I did at the time that it died, I might have some chance of resurrecting it. I've got the 3 color computers in the series. I've got the 3 Commodore Amigas that I talked about. Plus, I was given, when I was finishing up my undergraduate degree, I was given an Amiga 1000, which I've never actually plugged in. I really need to put my fingers on that machine and see if it even powers up. I question a little bit if it will, but that's only because the lady who was kind enough to give it to me admitted that they had stored it in an outdoor shed for a few years, And so if nothing else, it's going to need a good cleaning inside and out. And I believe the keyboard has at least one missing key, which is unfortunate because those Amiga 1000 keyboards are a little hard to find these days. But that will not deter me. I will keep my eyes open for one, and at some point I will source one. Shopping in shops means they will still exist. Yes, it does. And if there weren't so much road construction between me and where Staples is located, I would probably go there more. But for the last 2.5 years, they've had a major road construction project going on. And I'm hoping by the end of the summer it'll be wrapped up, but who knows? In Michigan, we say that there are two seasons in a given year. There's winter and there's road construction. I'm sure there's a few others on here that can relate, and maybe their states say the same thing. But yeah, if only the powers that be in my state would take some advice, solicit some advice from our neighbors in the Great North, Canada, we might have better roads here in Michigan that held up for more than a couple of years. But politicians, politicians, I doubt it's any different in other areas of the world. But yeah, it's sometimes a little disheartening that they can't find a way to work with our neighbors and share some knowledge back and forth so that everybody gets the benefits of improved roads and less damage to our vehicles. Are you okay with a soldering iron and troubleshooting? You can cast another key for the computer. I'm borderline reasonable with a soldering iron. I don't really have have a good space to do soldering in. I would really like if I start doing soldering again, because I'm not getting any younger. I would like to get one of those magnified, those magnifying glasses that you can mount on a table with a light in it, just so I can see what the heck I'm doing. But yeah. I live in the county with the worst potholes in the UK. Oh boy. Well, I'm glad we can all suffer the potholes. It's something. It's something. But yeah. So things are progressing a little bit with the desk. I had to postpone midweek news this week, which I don't like doing, but with only one monitor and not access to my regular editing software, I didn't want to put out a completely garbage episode this week. So I'm hoping that I can release that on Friday, which won't exactly be midweek anymore, but it will still come out. So better late than never. So yeah. So other than that, I may be ending up with a cat, I guess. I've got a coworker that is relocating from Michigan to California to be near his father or stay with his father. I'm not sure which is the case. But his father is extremely allergic to cats. So he's looking to rehome his kitty, and I may end up with this cat. So that will be interesting. I haven't had a cat of my own in a number of years, but I'm sure I can get used to it again. So let's see, what else can I talk about tonight? I did wrap up a project at work today. Well, I shouldn't say I was doing the work. Had a project ongoing to roll out new patron computers at the library for the adults. We had to split it up because of the cost of the computers over a couple of years. So the adult computers were purchased, and then we were having more issues with the staff machines. So the adult machines were put on hold so I could roll out the staff machines. And then I went back to the adult computer project and finally got everything rolled out. And I think it's all working the way it's supposed to at the moment. If I had wood near me, I would knock on it or throw some salt over my shoulder. I'm not sure how libraries operate in other countries, but here in the US, we have some laws in place that require us to have no filtering on adult computers for people over the age of 18. And if you're under the age of 18, then we've got to filter out all the adult related material and gambling and weapons and all that kind of fun stuff. And so doing the kids computers, which will likely happen after mid-year, will be an interesting project to say the least. Sadly, all the kids really want to do on the computers when they come into the library is play Roblox and other browser-based games, which kids are going to be kids, right? I wish I could get even a handful of them into doing some programming and things of that nature, but with all this push into AI, I don't know. They don't seem interested, and I sometimes wonder if as an IT person, I'm going to become the typewriter repairman of the next few years. But since everybody thinks they can get all the answers from AI and everything. Let's see. Other things to look for in your collection: mechanical typewriters. Just do a collection of modern history and see what else is gifted as well. What other museums are near? There's not a lot near me. There are computer museums on the East Coast of the U.S. and the West Coast of the U.S., and there might be a few scattered in between. But nothing within driving distance. I'd have to hop on a plane or train or something to get to the closest one on the East Coast. Driving without somebody to share driving responsibilities would be a challenge. Demand for schools. Do they pay to visit? Or you do a talk? That's an idea. That's an idea for sure. I don't know of any that pay, but there may be opportunities to take some of the retro equipment in and do a talk or a presentation of some sort. I'm guessing a lot of these kids in elementary school today have only seen a real floppy disk represented as a save icon in a word processor or whatever. And I wonder how long that's going to exist, since it's a bit of an antiquated icon. So, but yeah, so things are going relatively well at the library. We're starting to gear up for our push for fundraising for the August election. The official numbers are in, and it looks like the renovation project is going to cost $6.7 million. And hopefully the community will approve the bond, and we'll get to push things forward and give them the library that they deserve, and meeting spaces, and a number of other things that the community does not have ready access to without traveling to another nearby town. So okay, I'm here. What did I miss? Well, I talked about some retro computers. Talked a little bit about the library. Got a sweet desk mat to go under my keyboard and mouse. This Razer Gigantus. Since I had to go to Staples after work tonight. But beyond that, not a whole lot going on tonight. Rather chill night. Not sure if we'll go much past the hour. Then I can go upstairs and do some more laundry and maybe finish that desk, and get equipment put back together on top of it, which would be great to get that done yet tonight. Grandma turned 89 today. I'll be lucky to make it to 49. But will they give you the salary you deserve? Sadly, no. Elementary is one area. I think those that would actually pay to make it viable. You do have the building, plenty of chairs. Yeah. Unfortunately, I also have some rectangular shaped boxes that I don't have a place to move to at the moment, nor a vehicle to haul them in. And I need to coordinate getting those relocated. How is the desk build? Well, it's coming along. I finally put my fingers on my battery drill with the screwdriver attachment. So really the big part I need to do is join the two pieces, the two halves of the desktop together, and then mount the legs on the desktop. The hard part is really done, but there are like 25 or 28 screws that have to go into the bottom of this desktop to finish it. And so I'm charging the battery for the drill, and hopefully between tonight and tomorrow morning, before I go into work, I will have the desk completed and upright, and at least part of the equipment put back on top of it. So with that being said, I'm shooting for Friday. Yes, it's going to be a couple days late, but midweek news will come out this week yet. I'm not going to try doing another one of those 2-week episodes. That was a little much. Yeah, I'm gonna make it to an hour, maybe an hour and 15. Then I'm gonna call it for the night. I'll buy the caskets. I'm sure my father is going to want at least cost for them, so you may very well not want them. I'm dying to own some. Har har. Yeah. So what else? Oh, so I got an email. Let me see if I can pull it up on my phone here real quick. I got an email to my contact email for the channel from the people that were behind a Linux distribution called Black Ubuntu, which was a competitor to Kali Linux. And due to somebody else buying a domain name that was very similar to theirs and causing some confusion, they decided to pull Black Ubuntu, and their new distribution is called Snoop God. So it's supposed to be a contraction of Snoopy and God. But one could also point out that God backwards is dog, and so they could be playing off from Snoop Dogg as well. So yeah. Anyway, what is the cost of one? Can I at least buy mine? I don't know. I think the lowest priced one he's got here right now is probably well, the retail price is going to be somewhere in the $1,900 range. I'm not sure what cost is on it. I don't know what his formula was for markup. Yep, I may be getting a cat. As I mentioned earlier, coworker is having to relocate. He's been staying with his grandmother, and she's been causing him some grief and anxiety issues and stuff going on. And she's older, so he's got an opportunity to go be near his father, and his father's allergic to cats. So I'm entertaining the thought of fostering this cat, at least on a temporary basis. So the Black Muntu people turned Snoop God distribution. They want me to take a look at their Linux distribution and potentially do a review on it. And so once the main machine is back together upstairs, that's one of the things I'm planning on doing. That will probably be one of the projects over the weekend, if everything comes together nicely. Do caskets depreciate in value when you take them off the lot before you put them in the lot? that should be in the plot. Not that I'm aware of. At least not unless they've had like some water or other damage somehow. But I don't think there's any issues with any of these that he's got here. So we'll see. Let's see. My more modern phone is 1/3 of a second quicker. Compare icon pictures. Nice. Yeah, plot, right. So let's see. Let's see. Is there anything else I wanted to touch on tonight? Can close down these tabs. Oh, I guess speaking of retro computers, I never got to play with one of these. What was it called? So back when I was still running the Amiga computers, I had learned about this computer company based out of England called Acorn. And they had a line of machines which never really made it to the US in any significant numbers anyways. I'm sure there were some that people imported, but So I never really got to experience it other than seeing pictures and reading articles about them. But one thing that I have played around with is the operating system that ran on these machines. Since Acorn was responsible for the ARM processor, the original ARM processors, and the Raspberry Pi is based on several generations newer versions of the RISC processor, the ARM processor. I have had a play with RISC OS, and it's rather interesting. It's very different from other graphical operating systems that I had ever encountered. So back in the late 90s, it talks about here in this paragraph, after the breakup of Acorn in 1998, development of the OS was forked and was continued separately by several companies. And with that, there were several attempts at bringing out more RISC OS computers. Sadly, none of them really reached the U.S. shores. But thanks to the Raspberry Pi being available around the world, a lot more people can experience RISC OS software. And it's an experience. And I encourage people that might have a Raspberry Pi, if they've never experienced RISC OS, take a play with it for a weekend and see how disorienting it is at first when you're used to Mac OS and Windows and Linux and other things that follow a different paradigm for the way things operate in several ways. But definitely worth a look. And as you can see here, it does run on several different ARM processors and single board computers besides the Raspberry Pi, such as the Beagle board and the Touchbook and the Panda board. So, you know, worth a spin, and you might find it to be an interesting novelty to play with. So I guess that was the only other thing I had off the top of my head to talk about briefly. Let's catch up with chat, and then we'll think about wrapping things up for the night. Could you do a members only stream showing the caskets? That's possible. I could probably get away with that. I have to do it during the day because that room where they're all at right now does not have any lighting that really works. So doing it after dark is not really an option at the moment. In case you haven't realized. What I miss? Oh, Bella's your cat. Okay. Now I'm putting things together. Acorn, did it vibrate? No, Joe. Are you familiar with the pros and cons of WireGuard versus OpenVPN versus IPsec? Tony and I were discussing this earlier. Somewhat, but I'd have to do a refresher on it. I know compared to OpenVPN, WireGuard is faster. I've never really dabbled with IPsec. I've read a lot about it over the years, but I've never implemented it. I have had OpenVPN running for a couple of projects. But I've been using Zero Tier and NetBird and Tailscale. NetBird and Tailscale being built on top of WireGuard. But I've also recently come across a video, and I couldn't tell you who it was by, but basically covering running your own WireGuard server in the cloud. So like on a VPS, whether it's Amazon or Azure or one of the smaller players like Vulture or one of those guys. But it would basically allow you to, on a $5 a month VPS, have your own WireGuard server and be able to connect to it wherever. Which, you know, may not have all the bells and whistles of a Tailscale or one of those other ones, but you would have control over the whole thing pretty much. So I would say WireGuard unless you want user passwords or backwards compatibility. Yeah. What's popping and locking other than the caskets? Hey, Ezra, not a whole awful lot. Did you see the video I sent about the Chihuahua? It certainly reminded me of Helios since that little sucker bit me. Caskets by Flashlight sounds like a great weekly show, right? The issue with the overlay networks is when you want to expose an entire network and you don't have pfSense or OpenSense on one end. I ended up with IPsec between the studio and our house. Yeah, that's that can be an issue. It seems like Unify was adding WireGuard support. I could be wrong on that. Since I no longer have a USG, I'm not quite as up on some of the newer changes. And I am running OpenSense on as my main router firewall unit. So, yeah, it's, I don't know. I'd always called them overlay networks, but I see some of them are referring to themselves as VPNs now. So I don't know. I feel like it's blurring the line. Talking specifically site to site, and a UDM Pro connected to a pfSense box at home. Okay. Yeah, seems like Unify was adding some WireGuard support, but I don't. I don't recall. Yeah, this article makes it sound like there's support for WireGuard. Whoops. I don't know if that helps, Joe, but let's see. He's getting so old now. I wonder if he still has the anger of 100 men in him. Unify added WireGuard, but not for site to site. Ah, gotcha. Only OpenVPN and IPsec. David uses Tailscale as a site to site. If it's pfSense on both sides, Tailscale would be my number one. Excuse me. Still pushing the water pretty hard. I was bad this morning, though. I had a 32-ounce Mountain Dew, and holy crow, that stuff tastes syrupy now, since I've hardly been drinking it over the last year. So it's this damn UDM. Yeah. As much as I like the Unify stuff, I guess at the time that I bought it, Unify hadn't released some of their newest gear yet. And so I was stuck between a rock and a hard place, and I needed a new router firewall like right now. This was back in June of last year. And so I bought the box that I'm running OpenSense on. And that it's been a solid little box. I have to give it credit for what it's done since I've had it. So let's see. My pfSense does not do Tailscale at all. It's either a NAS acting as a subnet router or some kind of VM or Raspberry Pi. That's fair. Oh, the Tailscale package works great on pfSense. Seems like Joe, didn't they have some hiccups with their Tailscale package at the beginning, where they had to pull it briefly on pfSense? I know there were some differences at the time between pfSense and OpenSense when it came to Tailscale, and but yeah, it's interesting the way that stuff develops. I prefer not to run Tailscale on pfSense because it has limitations since it runs in user space. Oh, that was WireGuard. Okay. Gotcha. Interesting. All right. Well, so my memory is not getting any better then. Oh, I got a Grandstream email. They announced a new layer 3 managed network switch. The GWN 7816P, or not P. I'm guessing depending on whether it has PoE or not. Oh, 48 gigabit Ethernet ports and 6 SFP plus ports. Designed for enterprise and large business. Well, I won't be buying one of those. So let's see. I have my pfSense acting as WireGuard target for several clients, and it is the target for a GLINet router that routes a whole subnet. Yeah, those GLINet routers are pretty nifty pieces of gear with OpenWRT on them and some custom work on the UI. I've got one of the canary yellow ones. I've had it for probably 3 or 4 years now, but interesting to play with. Tailscale ACLs do not work with pfSense since you have to NAT at the source and not the destination where ACL are applied. Gotcha. I must have missed that comment. So no, I did not see that comment. My apologies. I'm afraid I'm not using ACLs either, but I'm typically the only one on this network. Me and my 30 plus machines and virtual machines and NAS boxing and whatnot. A few home automation pieces. I probably should dive into slightly more sophisticated configurations on some of this stuff, but one day. One day. All right. Well, we're an hour and 17 minutes in. Let's see. I'm not seeing a comment about missed. Maybe it's not being exposed to me for one reason or another. But I scrolled up more than 12 comments and did not see it. So no, I'm not seeing it. Anyways, I should probably go ahead and wrap this up. Got to finish some laundry and spend a little bit more time working on that desk now that I've got a charged battery, or should have a charged battery for my drill. And I can hopefully make short order of short order of all those 20 something odd screws. And maybe I'll get the thing upright yet tonight before I go to bed. It would be a nice accomplishment for the day if I got it at least mostly screwed together. And then I can spend an hour or two in the morning before I go into work to get equipment put back together and start powering stuff back on. So, and I'm not going to make any promises about when the members live stream will be, but I will do something, and we'll potentially take a look at caskets and whatnot, but to be announced. I guess I'll leave it at that. But if everything goes well, then it may be sometime this weekend. So on that note, thank you everybody for hanging out with me tonight. These live streams are a nice diversion for me. It keeps me from just sitting and watching TV or staring endlessly at computer screens. Although I guess I'm in front of one now, but this doesn't really seem like work to me, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make. Lets me let off some steam and just relax and talk to some like-minded people. So thank you all for that. Everybody have a good night, and I will see you next time. And I'm hoping to have midweek news out Friday morning. So on that note, everybody have a good night. We'll see you soon.